We are back. Welcome to the kickoff episode of the Independent Thinkers Podcast, where we talk about local life, sports, and politics with members of the community. And today I have a special guest. He's a good friend of mine. We've known each other a while. We're pretty close. And you guys know him as Mayor Sandy Roberson. How you doing, sir?
Oh, man, I'm doing great. I want to thank you so much for inviting me here today. It's always good to be with you. I enjoy it.
Thank you.
I enjoy the opportunity to have a little conversation, so I'm just really excited. Looking forward to it this afternoon.
It's funny. You do your show. I do this, and
Yeah.
we've always talked about being on each other's show, but
I think this is the first time we've
It's the
crossed over.
first time, man. People really get to see us, have a conversation.
Yeah.
They're used to seeing us in different places, but now they get the
Well, it's
opportunity.
easier to talk about you when I'm not in front of you. So.
Well, that's right. We don't always agree, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, no,
Let's put it
that's
out
the
there,
beauty of it. That's the
beauty of
Yeah.
it. A lot of, people think that, we agree on everything, but we both love to disagree and to come to an understanding of our disagreements.
Well, what I've found is that every time I don't necessarily agree with somebody, it helps me refine my opinion. It challenges me a little bit.
It does.
And it causes me to think through it. And I'm like, do I really have a position that I can stand behind, or is that something maybe that really isn't that important to me? And it's interesting. And what's a little frustrating to me in today's politics all over, country, here locally, is that if you have a disagreement, it's almost like we've got to have a fight.
It's amazing. Like, what happened to two grown people sitting down, having a conversation, and coming to a conclusion either to agree or to agree to disagree?
I don't know, but it seems like almost the impossible thing. And I don't know. I just don't understand it.
It's amazing, So,
Yeah.
you're mayor of Rocky Mount.
Yes, sir.
I'm still getting used to it.
Me too. I'm just now getting used to the title. You know,
You started, you guys had a tough team. You probably had one of the toughest tenures as a newly elected mayor in recent memory of the city.
I don't remember. Surely it wasn't this hard for Fred or for David. So,
Right.
they're the only two in my memory in the city of Rocky Mount.
Audit, COVID, SB 473. Every time you turn around, there's something different,
And now we're going through redistricting for the ward. So, that's going to be interesting.
That's
And yesterday's meeting was kind of interesting, I thought. But you were saying something.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. We can get on. We can touch on that a little bit. The question I get asked the most by people.
What?
Who is Sandy?
Yeah.
And it amazes me. Like, I'm like, that's my friend. He's a good guy. So, and it's amazing. You're halfway through your tenure, probably.
Right. That's right.
We're at
Yeah,
the
right at
halfway
2
point.
years. I think was October. So
October.
yeah. So this is
Almost
maybe the
3, huh?
runoff was, I think, early November. So we were right at 2 years.
Yeah. So at the halfway point of your tenure, what would you consider wins and what would you consider losses?
So I haven't considered anything a loss yet.
Yeah, understood.
Because I feel like that we're growing. What I believe are the biggest wins, and there's a lot of things that people don't see necessarily on the surface, but I did a lot of planning with a lot of people, with a lot of committees, trying to figure out how you can help small business people, figuring out how you can help affordable housing, how you can begin to play a role in even our school systems and education. And so a lot of those folks, you helped me on several of them, have
Very
become
rewarding.
roadmaps. And so what it's allowed me to do, I feel like, is to be opportunistic when I can, when the opportunity presents to help the community in those particular topics, or to be strategic and tactical when it's necessary to be able to try to do that.
Yeah.
So those have been, really what I consider to be a big part of where we are and where we're going.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we have a big red letter day yet in the administration, but I don't think we've had any real defeats. I think we're moving forward. I think I have been the guy you've wanted at the table when you're talking economic development, trying to bring people into town. I've had a number of conversations that have brought folks here, and it's very exciting to me to see. So it's just a culmination of all those things. I'm trying to build bridges, even with our own council members, because we've been dysfunctional. And so we're working on those types of things, and we're going to have to get there. We can't just fight for the sake of fighting. There's some things that are principled, and clearly you can't give those up. But
Sure.
but that's very few things that fall in that category, in my estimation.
That's good. Now, you are an entrepreneur, of course.
Yeah.
Health Through Capital.
Sure.
Correct.
Right.
Being an entrepreneur, being in charge for a long time, did you find it difficult to go into a situation as with a council mayor type organizational chart? I'll just say it, sometimes when you're in charge, you're used to walking in the room, used to everybody listening to what you have to say. You're the problem solver. You have the last word of everything. Was it difficult, like from a human standpoint, was
Sure.
it difficult to come into this situation and realize that, okay, I have to figure out a different route in order to be a leader?
Clearly, it's been an adjustment for me. You're right. It's a lot more efficient in my world, my investment professional life, because I am the problem solver. I am the guy who ultimately has to make a decision. And what that means is I'm 100% accountable for all those decisions. People may advise me. I seek good counsel. So I'm accustomed to that. Where it has been challenging, or I should say challenging, I wouldn't say that at all. Where I've had to rethink the approach is it's not just, okay, here's the plan. I need you guys to go implement this and make it happen. It's more of a conversation of what do you want? What do you need? And that has been frustrating because I studied, during the campaign, I just got to say it was kind of odd. Because I studied my own hometown like I had never lived here.
It's weird. Isn't it?
It is weird. And when I tell you it's weird, I realized a lot of things that I had never known or seen because I've just lived here all my life. So we've got a problem. We have basically a poor city. Our median household income is low. It needs to be higher. Our educational levels are a little bit on the low side. We have need for more affordable housing and better housing stock. So when you really start looking at those things and understanding, and then try to build a plan, what I've had to learn is that I need everybody to help me work on that plan. And that's been somewhat not challenging. I've had to rethink it, and honestly, it probably took me 12 months, 14 months to kind of get to that place.
I saw the process.
I felt the process, brother.
That was the ear. Okay.
But I think I'm kind of finding that groove, trying to find that slot, trying to be productive where I can.
Speaking of the campaign, there's one thing you can't take away. You won in a city with an over 60% African American population.
68%.
68% African American population. And the tenure started off with a lot of different things happening, audit, all these different things that were going on. Did you find it difficult to try and when you're a politician, sometimes you want to satisfy everyone?
Of course you do.
Did you find that to be a difficult aspect of the job to try to get everyone's buy-in on tough issues,
Well, I see it less about tough issues, although we've had plenty confronting us, right? I mean, the removal of the Confederate monument. We've gone through BLM protests. We've gone through a lot of COVID. We've gone through a lot of challenging times in the community since I've just been here. But I really, again, just kind of stepped back and I said, and I ran a survey or two. I just said, well, what is it that you want? I mean, let's think about it. My job is to serve 55,000 people. So what do those 55,000 people want? And so what I was finding is that there were really consistent themes that were appearing over and over and over. Public safety was absolutely number one. So in the African American population, greater 65% said, gosh, public safety is our issue. Now their Caucasian counterparts, over 54% said public safety was their number one issue. So then the question is, well, what does that really mean? Does that mean that I'm feeling safe walking my car at night? Does it mean that, it could mean a lot of things to a lot of people. And so we worked with the UNC School of Government and got a bunch of kids, a bunch of those guys to do a project for us and really started to define what that meant. And what does that mean in the context of the days, defund the police and the current thoughts that are out there, and how much does mental health actually fit into policing and so on and so forth. And clearly, this is not my job, But it is my job to make sure that folks understand the facts and understand what we want as a community.
Yeah.
And so I think, those types of roles have been beneficial for, Chief Hassel. I've been able to share with him a
Nice
lot of this
guy.
stuff. I think so. And,
Nice guy.
one of the things I really appreciate about him is that he's faced forward into the challenges.
Yeah.
He's not running from it. He's saying, okay, we have crime, right? What have I got to do? I can't out arrest the problem.
Yeah.
So how can I go about the problem of trying to reduce that anxiety associated with public safety? And I think he's doing it. And the numbers seem to be showing that they're moving down.
Good job.
The other issue that we were finding is that people were looking for jobs. That was the second one, but I was second by it was down only 24%.
Wow.
Which is a big number, but it's nothing like.
Why do you think people feel like public? Well, we know that
Sure.
Some violent crimes that happen in our city, but
Sure.
we all view Rocky Mount as kind of like our little small town. And when a violent crime happens, it like shakes the community.
Man, I don't know. I've lived here all my life. I go everywhere. I don't feel unsafe anywhere in the city. Maybe I should.
Yeah.
But I have never felt unsafe.
I'm like you. But I see the struggle. I see, being and living in Edgecombe, I see a few things, and in different areas of Nash. But I went to college in Durham, man, and during the height of
right in the 90s, right?
Exactly. And it's like, what I see is a little different than what sometimes the average person see. What do you think when people say, and I know you've heard this, it's a funny question.
Right.
What do you think? How do you feel when people say, "Oh, he's weak"?
Right.
He's caving to the other side, or he is not strong enough. Like, what do you think about? How do you feel about that?
So, I'm a pilot.
Yeah.
And so what that means is there's an expression called chasing the needle.
Yeah.
And so what that means is you've got a compass, and that you pick a heading and you have to go that heading. And if you're off course, then the tendency you want to do is you want to react and you want to turn as fast as you can. And then you end up overcorrecting.
Yeah.
So then you have to turn back the other direction.
Yeah.
The proper way to do it is to pick the course and stay on the course, making slight adjustments left or right.
Yeah.
So I don't look at this as what is weak, what is not weak. The bigger question is, are you staying on course, on message? Are you trying to do the same things that brought you to the dance?
Yeah.
And to the extent you're accomplishing that, whether it's through compromise, whether that is because of force of will, the real question for me is, are you staying on course? Have you deviated? And are you deviating how much and why?
Yeah.
And so, I do hear that a lot, and it really comes down to, there's a whole world out there that just seems to make this a sport and just seem to love it, right?
Right.
But what I want to see is consistency. I want to see what true north looks like, and I want to try to stay on that course. So, I've gotten a lot of criticism from my constituents, my friends, those all my constituents. But it's never the same people. It's never the same issues. And I believe that I'm staying on the course that I promised that I would, and I believe that we're bringing folks, what we had promised that we were going to do.
Yeah.
And so, really, it's about jobs. It really is trying to facilitate, whatever I can do for public safety, and whatever I can do to represent the city.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't look at myself as just being a figurehead either. I also look at myself as being a spokesperson for the city.
True.
And so, I think that that's where maybe it gets a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
The other thing is, while I have no real statutory authority, I was elected by 67% of the vote in the final runoff, with over 10,000 people running. In fact, more people showed up for the runoff than showed up for the general election.
Yeah.
Which is the largest turnout for a mayoral election in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And anything that I could find statistically. So it says that my message resounded with people.
Yeah.
Whether we choose to read it, whether the vocal folks tend to listen and believe that is a whole nother question.
Right.
So there's a whole middle out there that nobody's talking to.
That are quiet.
Go
about their daily life.
And that's who wants to steady as she goes. And that's why that matters.
Yeah. Where do your values come from? The things that make you, that are rock solid, that nobody can change.
I got to give credit to my mom. I mean, everybody, I have a wonderful mom.
Good lady.
She
Good
is.
lady.
I did a good day's job when I picked her out of a catalog. If only it worked that way, I wouldn't have been wise enough to have picked out a woman.
Where was she at? Was she what section was she in?
She's awesome. I don't know. And the God should, bless me so well, and a good father. And so having those guys in my life with a strong Judeo-Christian belief system, and that was really emphasized with a work ethic, I think is what's created that for me. So I have this view of the world that's certainly Christian.
Yeah.
That really form a lot of the things that I can't bend on.
Yeah.
But having been in business, you begin to understand that really, what does it take to get the job done?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not what the policy says. Sometimes you have to, change it a little bit. What's practical? Does it make sense? Nobody's perfect. You can't beat nature. You just, so it's those experiences I think really have combined and kind of folded in to become who I am.
You know what was amazing to find out about you is that you spent time as a kid in Ward 3.
Sure did.
Tell us a little bit about that,
Well, first of all, I grew up my grandmother lived on Tyen Street, and my grandfather had done a lot of the development in that particular neighborhood. Mm-hmm. That was the old railroad town. It's never been a wealthy part of town. It's always been a working class kind of place. But my fondest memories were hanging out with my grandmother. I'd go to that little park, Lancaster Park, and I'd find soda bottles. This is back when you could get a refund for them. And I'd get a nickel, and I'd go to the corner store, and I'd turn in all the bottles, and I'd get my 50 cents or 60 cents or whatever it was, and I'd buy the bubble gum and candy, and so just I was bopping around all the time, and so I just loved it, and I still loved it. I think my grandmother moved, maybe 1978, and then we moved from there to over to Bedford Road, which is now Ward 1.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I spent my early years, I think we probably left there 81, 2, something like that.
Yeah.
And finally moved to where we currently live, which is on Lafayette, Ward 6. Soon to be Ward 2 or 3 or 1.
Yeah.
or 4.
Yeah. I am a guy. When did the moment happen, right? I know we went through the campaign and all that, all those different things. When was the moment that you woke up and said, I'm the mayor? Like, what was it? Was it because you're going through the motions, even in the beginning,
right?
Right after the campaign, you're still going through the motions, and then when was that time where you was like, wow?
It was pretty immediate. So if you remember, right after I won and before I was sworn in, we set up all those advisory and steering committees. And so I was working, 40, 60 hours a week on just trying to get that information, relearning, understanding how I could be an assistance to folks who are community shapers, principals, teachers, individuals such as yourself. And just how can I plug in and be part of what we need to change?
I thought it was pretty smart too, and unbeknownst to popular belief, we were really productive.
Oh, absolutely.
We really got some things done.
I still have those plans sitting on the corner of my desk. I still refer to them.
Wow.
I still look at that lens as, okay, these are things that we said, this is how we get to the campaign issues that everybody said they wanted, right? So public safety is an issue, housing's an issue, jobs are an issue, economic development. And so these were the committees that reflected that with a group of smart people. They said, well, this is how we think that you can play a role in that. And I'm still using that playbook, and I'll use it until we've checked everything off the box, all the boxes off. So, people think that, we're kind of being reactive. The truth is something far different than that. It's very calculated, very, very, transparent in what the approach has been. And nothing has changed since the day we mentioned it.
We talked about that, like last week, how some people think this is an easy job.
Right.
And it's pretty difficult. They think that out and about in public and shaking hands, and that is a lot of what the job entails. But it really entails a lot of cerebral thinking.
Oh, absolutely, it does. And then, how can and I've got a lot of experiences too. That's a
Yeah.
lot of reason that the people I think had the trust in me as mayor is that just from my business experience, personal experience, a lot of growing up, um, the shaking hands and the kissing the babies is perhaps the fun part, but
Yeah.
that's so little of the job. It's not funny.
Yeah.
What I spend most of my time with are little old ladies who come in here that can't pay, their utility bill. And they're asking me, how do I get through the month? And I've got to choose between this or some medication. And so what we'll do, and I say we, Carrie Cox, who is my chief of staff, and and others here, we'll try to figure out, well, there's usually some monies that we can find, grants or programs to help the elderly. And so we try to plug people into those opportunities and the needs they have.
Yeah.
There are a tremendous number of folks who come in that don't have housing. They're homeless. They're trying to figure out what's, how to the landlord's evicting them.
Do you take that home at night?
Sure. I mean, how do you not take it home?
Yeah.
I mean, if you have any heart at all, any compassion,
Yeah.
so there are a lot of charitable organizations that are trying to either raise money for other good causes. And then I try to figure out, well, how can I lend my name to assist in them generating funds? And so I do that to the extent I can. So that's a lot of what we do outside of council meetings. And it's stuff you just don't see.
Yeah.
Travel teams trying to raise money. It's amazing the number of requests that we get in the course of a day. But it's always the utilities. It's always the evictions that really kind of tear you up. And particularly when you're talking about, small children involved, and particularly during COVID, we had a lot of kids that were just kind of displaced because nobody was in school. There's nobody checking on them, and they didn't even know if they were even in the district because they weren't checking in. So you almost have this lost generation educationally.
Right.
So those are the things that I work on, that my team and I work on, and it's just part of what we do. Of course, I hand off where I can.
Yeah.
But the city really isn't responsible for everything that we try to make the city responsible for.
Understood. Part of it comes from, that's one thing I recognized early on about you as when we met, was that you are a cheerful giver.
Sure.
And a lot of people don't know some of the things that, you've done and some of the people that, you've helped. What would be the one thing from a charitable standpoint that you have done that you're like extremely proud of?
Well, first of all, I grew up in a house where you give because it's the right thing to do,
right?
And you never talk about it,
right?
So that's a most uncomfortable topic for me. And I
understand.
remember when I was running, had all these people say, "But you got to go out there and tell it. You got to tell it."
I was one of those people.
I know you were one of those people, and the list goes on. And you're right. You're right. But it's still an uncomfortable thing. So I'm a huge supporter of the Boys and Girls Club. I think they do a great job in touching and ministering to our youth and helping them stay focused. I believe in peacemakers, and I've lent my name to a number of those projects. Clearly, First Baptist. Is there any one thing I'm proud of? What's better, helping A or helping B?
Right.
To the extent that we can do it, they all are meaningful. And to the extent that we can get somebody to a place where they can be productive citizens, then we've accomplished something. And so it's no one thing, it's the old Hillary Clinton thing. It takes a village to raise a kid. And I just want to be one of those guys in the village.
I would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about Edgecombe County. I love Edgecombe.
Sure.
I love Edgecombe County.
And I do too.
Currently, Edgecombe is deprived of some resources. The Edgecombe County side of Rocky Mount, a grocery store. You only have one. A pharmacy. You have two mom and pop pharmacies.
That's right. Almonds and Oakwood. That's right.
But the cry is out for a big box of some sort. There is a huge dilapidated housing stock in certain areas of Edgecombe and on the cusp of Edgecombe.
Right.
What would what would be some of your solutions to some of those particular issues? And I hope that's not a difficult question. It's
No, I think you got to start at the very base building block, right? What is the median household income?
yeah,
And then how do we build that to a place that a grocery store can be supported or a pharmacy could be supported?
yeah,
It seems to me, as I'm looking at it, I really don't understand why we don't have a grocery store kind of in that Crossings at 64 area. It may not be
yeah,
in that development, but around it.
yeah.
Because when I look at the number of cars that go by 64, it's like 32,000 at that particular intersection.
Do you see that as the opportunity, like everybody else does, like the crossings of 64?
So
It's a
there's no
huge
doubt
opportunity.
about it. There's no doubt in my mind that that's an opportunity on either one of those four corners.
Yeah,
Too many cars. You got Kingsboro, which is 7 miles just down the road. If Corning is not more than 10 miles down the road on Old 64.
right.
There's just too much that's happening and going to happen. So I don't see why that's not a real marketable location.
Yeah,
I don't understand. And there are other pockets and areas that I'm just not quite understanding. Why is there not something, I guess, if we're looking at, I mean, they're not really grocery stores, but Dollar Generals. We have something like 50 of them in Rocky Mount.
Oh my God, somebody's making major money off of Dollar Generals.
Right.
Let us in on it.
Yeah, right. And pharmacies, you're right. But, there are also a number of pharmacies in town that do delivery.
Yeah,
Almonds will deliver to your house. I know that Medical Park Pharmacy over at the Boyce Willis Clinic will deliver to your house. I'm pretty sure Oakwood does, but I really don't know that. So,
yeah.
it's a little bit like Amazon. What's more important, that you have that physical location or that the service is provided?
Yeah.
And then how do you gain access to the service?
So you think one of the solutions for the pharmacy side of it would be to maybe make sure that the current pharmacies that we have in the community have the services that are needed to support the
Well,
community?
look, so you got Oakwood and Almonds. They're all basically the same part of Edgecombe County. Why not start with them?
Yeah.
What do you guys feel like you need to be able to open up a branch on, I guess the end of Fairview and Grace or somewhere like that? That's probably the other really big intersection.
Yeah.
Really, that's probably, and maybe perhaps Raleigh Road. There's some of that corridor maybe would be marketable and have enough traffic to be able to really kind of generate some stuff.
Yeah.
But the other thing we got to look at that nobody's really talking about, kind of ties to this redistricting. When you look at where people live, they live 60-70% of them live in Nash County.
Yeah.
We talk about Edgecombe and Nash like it's a 50-50 split.
No,
and it's not. It never
we
has
found
been.
that out by the census. I'm not, we're going to get into this will lead us into redistricting.
Well, I'm just saying that so 7,000, 7,500 is kind of the magic for a ward.
Yeah.
As I look at the new ward maps that they're drawn, that means it tells me there's only about 10,000 people roughly in Edgecombe County.
Portion of Rocky Mount.
Basically split. So
yeah.
So, what's the ratio of persons per store location? It's a lot more complex than just saying, hey, look, it's an economically driven thing. So how do we incentivize somebody to do that economically? It's just that simple. Can the city do it? And the real answer is, how do we give people or generate folks an opportunity for more income?
Yeah. And everybody, I've been on this drugstore thing on kind of the low for a while.
Sure.
And I keep coming back to the same thing. You got two drugstores.
Yeah.
What about, investing in those, making sure they can offer more services to the community? And, and that seems to be a viable solution, for that particular area based on the population size, I would say. Now, talk about redistricting. That's the latest buzz on the street.
That's what we're all talking about.
Yeah, I borrow my buddy Sam Battle's slogan. Word on the street is redistricting.
It is indeed. It's the season.
Yeah. You guys had a meeting yesterday.
Right. We did.
Where there was kind of one of, I think, maybe three, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
How can we be fair to a city with a 68% African American population?
I'm not even sure what the question means. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
what we're trying to do is we're trying to get each ward to be roughly equivalent to 7,500 people, plus or minus a couple hundred. You're never going to get it precise. You're trying to stay within precincts, and you're trying to honor natural boundaries like rivers, major arteries, and et cetera, et cetera.
I thought it was weird that, and tell me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
The gentleman who gave the presentation at the last council meeting from Porter Spruill,
Right.
That he didn't use race as a guide to drawing the maps. Now, was that intentional, or is that standard procedure?
Sure, no, that's intentional, and in fact, it's one of the criteria that we agreed on, and that. So from an agnostic standpoint, he's just looking for people and where they actually fit based on the 10 criteria that we adopted.
Yeah.
And, fair, I mean, it's going to work out to roughly 68% of the wards are going to be largely African American. I mean, it's
that's a no-brainer. There's no way you can avoid.
That's just how that's going to work. I mean, so you can try to gerrymander a little bit, but as I look at it, I don't even know how you play with those numbers too significantly, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But there did seem to be some question in the meeting. There was an allegation that information had been released, although I haven't seen evidence of it or haven't talked to anybody or nobody shared that with me. But I don't. And so we had another councilman ask for just a third map for the sake of having a third map.
Yeah.
So, it'd be interesting to see where the conversation goes. I was disappointed that we didn't have any real conversation about that yesterday.
Yeah. About the third map?
About any of it. I mean, I didn't hear anybody say, well, I like A because, or I hate A because, or B's awesome if we did this.
It seemed like you got a bunch of people that no one wants to play their hand.
That's it. That's exactly what it looked like. And of course, I don't get a vote in these matters, so I'm largely a spectator. But
around the room.
I'm kind of going, well,
checking everyone's poker face.
So, okay. So you're positioning, saying, well, is the data real? You're saying, well, fine, let's get some more. But at the end of the day, we're no further toward adopting new ward maps than when we started.
And you have until November 8th.
We have, I believe it's November 8th.
Yeah.
Here's what I do know, that the March election in 2022 is a drop dead date. That is just not an option. We've got to have the election on that day. We can't extend it. It is what it is. And
we could be wrong about the November date. We just
I think it's November 8th. I'm working off memory, and then I think they may. Don't call in, don't write, don't send an email saying that we got the date wrong, because we may very well have the date wrong. But it's early November. How about that?
Right. Early November. That's fair. For me, I'm like those guys, man. To be honest with you, I've looked at both A and both B, and the interactive map that they have on the city's website that everybody should go look at.
That's right.
You go, I toggle back and forth, A, B, A. But I'm partial. I love Ward 1.
Sure.
So, when I look at it, I want the best for the people in that.
Of course you do.
Area. For everybody in Rocky Mount.
Of course you do.
I live in Ward 1. So,
if you live in Ward 1 or you're the representative of Ward 1, you want to represent your ward best you can.
Yeah.
With the mind that it's about prosperity for the entire city.
Correct.
And how can we all grow, prosper together?
Right. Now, speaking of that, prosperity for the entire city.
Sure.
Okay. Do you agree with the notion that a large amount of investment has been going over? And I hate, I hate the railroad tracks.
Sure, I do too.
Because it brings up a easy topic of discussion.
Steven Spielberg couldn't come up with a worse, geopolitical boundary and a nightmare story than what we've got in a lot of ways.
So do you feel, I hear from a lot of people over on the Edgecombe County side that growth and economic development, has been shunned on that side of town purposely. And I hear it from a lot of people in the community, that's on that side, and a lot of it is based on what they actually see,
right.
What do you feel like that there was a conscious effort to shun one side of the city as opposed to the other side?
I don't. No, no, I don't subscribe to the conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
There's no question that far more capital investment has gone into, the 60 to 70% of Rocky Mount that's in Nash County.
Sure.
That's where the growth lines of the city have been. That's historically what you see on the East Coast. But the other thing that I remind people that they don't really look at, so when you look at Edgecombe County, the tax rate is pretty significantly higher than the tax rate in Nash County.
That is true.
So when you start looking at the cost of development, my ongoing associated expenditure associated with that, you can't discount the impact that has on a developer.
Yeah.
If I'm going to pick between A and B, my margin is the same, everything's the same.
Yeah.
But my tax rate's higher in one place versus the other. It's going to have impact on the city.
And
I don't think that's 100% of it.
No.
But the other thing I want to point
think
out,
some people discount that, though, the knowledge of
They
people
do.
when it comes to that, when you're buying homes, and,
Right.
I think people discount that sometimes,
And I think that when you go back into call it the 80s, 70s and 80s, what happened was Nash County located their hospital closer to Rocky Mount, between Rocky Mount and Nashville. The Edgecombe County Hospital is located in Tarboro. And so you start looking at health services, you start looking at access to health care, you start looking at those types of things. They're also economic generators. And so people tend to want to be close to health care services. But when you look at how that laid out, Nash County, whether it was intentional or not, it worked out in a way that the hospital was located in Rocky Mount. So that's where your doctors are going to go sit. Where your doctors are is, you're going to have a lot of customer count. Where you have customer count, you're going to also have opportunity for retail and groceries and so on and so forth. And those same services don't exist necessarily in Edgecombe, Rocky Mount.
That's a good
Now,
point.
I don't know.
You're just naming factors.
These are the
factors,
factors that.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think that's a big part of it. I
Yeah.
really do. But I don't think there's an intentional move to try to isolate Edgecombe from Nash County. I do think that we need to spend some time and trying to understand the factors that are at play currently,
Sure.
and how to map out a course where we can provide some benefit to everybody all over the city.
Sure.
One of my biggest concerns when you start talking about the divide of counties
Yeah.
is really the educational system. That's the other hot topic. Now, the city really doesn't have anything to do with that. But when you're looking at it, what's going to happen to those kids? Do they get orphaned,
Yeah.
into a different system? And I've been part of a number of conversations with Edgecombe County, and I have utmost respect for Dr. Bridgers and Mr. Donnell, and
Yeah. That's good people.
and
man.
yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Donnell is a rock star.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. I've been
I'm
very
not
impressed.
concerned at all. I want to put it in. I am not concerned at all when the kids go, when the school splits, and we have
I'm not
people-
either.
I'm not concerned. I've seen those teachers over there in Edgecombe
Look,
County.
Edgecombe County is testing.
Scores are better.
I was going to say
Yeah.
that. You give me a chance. Scores are better.
Yeah.
But what you've got is a team of folks who care,
Yeah.
who are making it happen. And I
Yeah.
think, I think the big concern is socially. So
Yeah.
if you just do it one year, you can't just, send some kid who's, away from his friends and to Leggett or to Pine Tops.
Yeah.
So I think everybody's working through the right things, trying to figure out how to make it happen. I'm not concerned either.
Yeah.
But it plays into the same story we're talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
Education is at the foundation of a lot of
absolutely.
this.
You want to build a community that's built to last. The education system is if you make that rock star, then
Yeah.
we're all winners. At the end of the day, that's the basic building block.
Yeah.
That's the equalizer for everybody.
Yeah. You know what I would love to see more of, and I talk to people in the community, they would love to see more of the council working with the Nash and Edgecombe County commissioners
Right.
more. Maybe having a young lady pull me to the side. I was actually shocked that she was so in tune to what was going on.
Right.
And one of the things that she mentioned to me is that she would like to see them work together on projects, that benefit even from a funding standpoint. What do you think about that?
I think absolutely 100%. And I think that when you start looking at Rocky Mount, it is one city.
Sure.
It's in two counties.
Yeah.
and we can't discount that we need our brethren in both counties to
Yeah.
be successful. And we have had a fair amount of bad blood
Yeah.
with Nash County, and I would like to see that relationship restored.
Oh yeah.
I
Did you
would
hear
like to
that,
see-
Robbie?
Yeah, well, not just Robbie. I think we all own some of that,
We
right?
do, yeah.
And then I'd like to see a better relationship with Edgecombe County, a stronger relationship.
Did you hear that, Leonard?
But I think what's important here is that if we can come together and figure out what's great for our region,
Sure.
we're going to all be winners, and
Yeah.
that's the important piece and part.
Yeah.
And I wish it were as easy as we all sit around the table trying to figure it out.
It's tough.
It's
man.
not. It's
Yeah,
nothing
yeah,
quite
yeah.
works that way. The school system's got a separate board.
Yeah.
The county, commissioners fund it.
Yeah.
We are, the largest city in both counties, but yet we're not the county seat.
Yeah.
And the list goes on. So but it is about conversation. It is about trying to pull all in the same direction to make it happen.
Do
And
you
I think we're gonna get there.
Do you still believe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I absolutely believe, and what it requires is just dialogue, and that's the basis of all relationship.
Yeah.
So to the extent that we can build relationship, we'll go a long way, and that requires a building of trust. It
Yeah.
requires all those things, and my mother likes to remind me always that Jesus died for a relationship. It was no more complicated than that. It was 100% about relationship. So how do we, if we recognize that we are all in the same boat,
Right.
work together to try to achieve what we all want together?
Right.
And it's pretty simple. That doesn't make it easy.
No.
Golf's a simple game, but it doesn't make it easy.
That's correct. You gotta know the wind trajectory.
That's all that.
What club to use,
the swing and all that, right?
Yeah. You're halfway through your tenure.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, you're halfway through your
Sure.
tenure. What do you want to see in the next 2 years so that, after 4 years have passed by you and you can say, I've made an impact on my community? What do you want to see that would drive you to think that way?
Well, first of all, I don't like to think in terms of me
Yeah.
accomplishing whatever. It's always a we,
Yeah.
and I would think that the biggest thing the city of Rocky Mount could do for itself would be to build a strategic plan to encompass all the things that we need to do.
A blueprint.
A blueprint.
Mhm.
And I think you need to build it almost up by the wards.
Yeah.
So you build up Ward 1 has got different needs than Ward 7, then they're different than Ward 3. And so I think you start with those, you try to build those up. It starts with a wish list. I mean, we want 20 grocery stores, we want 50 pharmacies, we want whatever nothing's off the table.
Correct.
And then try to figure out how you backfill to that number, and then how can we create that as a community. And I think when you do that, people see kind of what is possible.
Yeah, you're right.
It creates that vision that
Yeah.
people need in order to be able to, prosper, and
Yeah.
it allows people like me to be opportunistic and or strategic and or tactical,
Yeah.
depending on what we're trying to accomplish and checking off the different goals. And so, but it allows us all to participate.
Right. Correct. Yeah.
So if you know where we're trying to go,
Yeah.
you get a chance to put in, plug into that.
Oh, yeah,
Everybody
yeah,
gets a chance to plug into it.
And you're hearing ideas from
That's
different
it,
people.
that's
and,
it, that's
Your goals are measured. There's accountability piece.
Right.
That, voters can.
But all
know
too
people
often
can-
we get caught up in this notion of control.
Yeah.
And who doesn't like control? I mean, my gosh, everybody loves control. They don't, they're
God,
liars.
I'm dealing with it now.
Yeah.
They got relinquishing some of it
Sure.
and feeling comfortable that things are going to work.
That's exactly right.
That's a difficult thing to be
It
in.
is
when
very
you've been in
difficult.
charge.
It is very
Yeah.
difficult. But,
Yeah.
sometimes you do have to let go of the wheel.
Yeah.
And that's a super, super hard thing to do to get to
Oh,
that
man.
place. I don't like it,
Yeah, me neither.
but
I'm working you guys.
right. But that's we're all works in progress,
Yeah.
right? I mean, but I think that's one thing we could do, and then we can decentralize the approach of how do we actually bring prosperity to our community, more prosperity. Because I think we're going to prosper. I think we've got a lot of tailwinds.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be able to get some great things going. We had a chance to talk about the Gateway Center,
Yeah.
not the Gateway Center, the Gateways Partnership, the number of jobs that we're talking about in Nash and Edgecombe counties.
Right.
I mean, it's the future is bright.
Yeah.
but we're not going to get where we want to go until we sit down and say, this is what we want. This is how we're going to do it.
And there's some great things happening in the city,
No doubt about
some
it.
houses that are being
Absolutely.
built all around the community. The council has been working a lot better as of late,
It
to
has.
come up.
I believe it has.
Yeah.
And we've been working really hard to try to communicate efficiently and to get to a place where, we're just rowing the boat in the same direction.
Yeah.
And disagreement's a good thing.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with that, but it's about doing it in a manner of respect and honor.
I would be remiss before we go if I didn't talk a little bit about downtown.
Sure.
What do you still feel that downtown Rocky Mount can become a thriving downtown? Now, I know my fellow entrepreneurs are gonna be like, "What are you talking about? We're thriving, man."
Right.
Which is true. There's some things,
Sure.
there's some great things that's going on. Great
There are.
nightlife on the weekends.
Sure.
Some great businesses that are starting up. Some great stories from the entrepreneurs that are downtown. I often tell people when they're critical, like these are your neighbors.
Right.
That's
right.
But, your neighbors trying to pay their bills like you are. So think about that. But what do you still believe in the overall growth and development of downtown?
Well, I bought a building in downtown, so obviously I'm invested in it. I
Sure.
believe in it. It's a little bit frustrating, in one sense, because I see a lot of investors, both in town as well as out of town, buying some buildings, right?
Yeah.
But it's almost like somebody's waiting for the first person to jump in, right?
Yeah.
So the first toes that I've seen stuck in the water have been like the Troy Davis Lofts. Ben Braddock has done some.
Two good guys.
And we got Nazir Dukes. He's building one kind of behind us. And so I'm hoping they're wildly successful. And I think if we can see that, you'll start seeing a lot more development energy. I'm concerned that if it isn't just wildly successful, then there maybe comes a pullback.
Yeah.
It's harder to get loans from banks. Access to capital when you don't really have comps is hard.
Sure.
I don't care who you are.
It's going to be difficult.
It's going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
And so I believe it'll happen.
We're going up on 10 years.
I know.
10 years. Could be a little bit more.
Sure.
When in the Douglas block in 2011.
That's right.
That was kind of the anchor of the revitalization. 10 years, man.
And it's holding pretty strong. I mean, we got nabs in there, and it's occupied nicely. I don't think it's mushroomed. That like everybody had hoped that it would. But as a building block, I think it's solid. I think it's helpful, and I believe the event center is going to make a difference.
I think so too. I still believe in the event center. It gets so much flack. And I think people have other motives, when they bash it or anything or something like that.
Well, I mean, I understand the fight on the front end, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so I can't tell you I was all that in love with an event center on the front end, but look, we have it. We've got the baby.
Right.
Let's raise it. And let's raise it to the benefit of all.
Right.
Convention centers, event centers, they're not designed to make money.
They're not cash cows.
They're not cash cows.
Yeah, they're not.
But, we should see more hotel development. But one of the challenges is we opened it up literally before COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about, gosh, just could you pick worse timing?
Yeah.
We got a railroad track separates two counties. We opened an event center like the COVID year. I mean, but, it's going to get there. And I think it's having some impact. I would like to see the SFM folks, start publishing a few more numbers about events.
Yeah.
I know, David Joyner, I think, is over there working hard.
He does a great job.
I think he's doing a great job.
Yeah.
If I have a challenge, is I don't always know what's going on.
Yeah.
Because either I'm not tuned into that social media page or that stream.
Yeah.
I'm just not seeing it. And, some of that, I have to own some of that.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like it's getting the credit that it probably deserves.
It did a wonderful job over the summer.
Sure.
With the events that they had, with a couple of concerts. He's now coming into his own with the
Right.
concert piece, and they're pretty much booked for the
See,
majority
and I
of
didn't know of a
next
single
year.
concert other
Yeah.
than the reggae thing, which was the evening of the Down East Viking Festival.
Right. They've had some little small,
Yeah.
little events
Okay.
coming up in October. There's a Spook Fest or something like that.
Yeah.
We're
'Tis the season, I guess.
so, I think that people should be patient.
Right.
Like you said, COVID came through,
Right.
and I think that it'll get off the ground running.
Well,
eventually.
I think it's having economic benefit right
Oh, yeah.
now. I just don't think we've calculated it. I don't think we're sharing that,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever it is, it's
Yeah.
more than we had. So let's celebrate that.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
create again. This helps get folks excited about investing in Rocky Mount.
Correct.
And when you start talking about a hotel development downtown, those are the numbers that people are going to have to see before they get to the place that they're comfortable making the bet.
Right.
And that's what it is, the bet.
And you've always supported downtown. There's one thing that I can say.
Sure.
All of the entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
they respect you. You come into businesses.
Sure.
You go into the eateries. You have conversations with those guys.
Love it.
When they see you, they come up to you and they talk to you.
Sure.
They give you a hug, a pound, a thank you.
Right.
And I watch those things. I watch these people. And they don't do it for everybody.
Right.
But, they seem to appreciate you, investing back in them.
Well, we got some great little bistros popping up. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we really do. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
I love them all. And, we're talking about downtown. We really need to mention Southern Bank. I mean, those guys have invested a tremendous amount of money, resources, and building and capital and people downtown.
Yeah.
And PNC as well. And so, I don't think they really get the credit they deserve.
Yeah.
But they're bringing probably 150, 200 people downtown every day.
Yeah. That's a
and
big building.
That's a big building, and those
lot of
guys are eating.
employees,
There you go. And
Yeah.
so we just need to be building, things that service that population.
Yeah. So, Sandy, he doesn't know it yet, but he'll be a regular pop-in guest
Awesome, man. I appreciate
Independent
it.
Thinkers.
Yeah.
And, we just I wanted people to meet you, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I really do. This has been great.
Me ask
And
questions.
I like this format.
I do too.
Just popping around.
Pete, I like this, Pete. I want to say you made this especially for me, and I'm happy about it. Thank you, Pete.
No problem.
Who doesn't love Pete?
But I want you to come back, man,
Sure,
and we
thank
can
you.
talk more. I tell the public this is just scratching the surface.
Yeah,
We're going to
yeah.
get a little bit deeper on different topics and different things,
Yeah.
And this is the first episode. We're back, Independent Thinkers
Awesome.
Podcast. I'd like to thank my guest, Mayor Sandy Roberson, is in the building. So I'm signing off. This is Wanda Pittman's baby boy, Terry Pittman. Until next time, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, brother.